So let me give my actual talk. 2026, usually I call this the year weather report, but now I'm going to do quarterly because it's only been 2 quarters since we've done the last time I've given this kind of presentation. So 2026 quarter 1, the weather report for the Xen project. That's me. Hopefully you know me. I became the community. I'm celebrating my 1-year anniversary as the community manager for the Xen project. Oh, wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Making me blush a little bit. It's been a big year, so I took out my slides to introduce who I am. Hopefully you know me by now. If my job is to make sure that the project continues to thrive. So if there's anything that you feel we could be doing better, that's great feedback. That helps me. I'm kind of a one-person show, so I spend my days prioritizing the highest priority item that day. So if something's getting delayed or you feel like I'm procrastinating on something, just ping me and let me know. So that's my little speech, because there's too much work for one person, so I have to prioritize things. So if there's something important that we could be doing better, just reach out. And if you're willing to volunteer a little bit to help too, that'll help keep things moving in a good pace. Because yeah, one person I don't think can do it all. It'd be impossible. So what is Xen? Hopefully you're here, so you all know. Right? I can just skip this slide normally, but we're an open source hypervisor, part of the Linux Foundation. We're funded by members. So that's the other side of my job, that maybe as a contributor or a user or an employee that's using Xen, you don't see that side, but we have an advisory board. So we have members that can join the advisory board. It's a paid membership to become part of the Xen project. And that's usually companies that are using the Xen in their systems. And that really supports, I have more slides on that later, but that really supports the project. So I also run the advisory board. I can consider myself the chairman of the board, but I don't actually have a vote. So I'm just the person that animates the meetings for the advisory board. Xen is a true Type 1 hypervisor. I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. True is an important word because we also have what we call like a hybrid Type 1 hypervisor. And Xen is, of course, really adaptable, which is what I believe makes it the best technology for doing virtualization in 2026 and beyond. We have domain 0, that control plane that lets you dynamically, or not if you want to make it static, create and remove virtual machines. Or we can also run what we call DOM0less, which you might define what virtual machines you need in a configuration file, in a configuration format. So that makes Xen really adaptable to the data center, to the server side of things, but also in the embedded space, right? Where you don't want to spin up new virtual machines because somebody came along and needs a new virtual machine. You don't need that in your car necessarily. So there's 2 different ways to use Xen. And there's also a consumer side, but if we look at projects like CubesOS, America's here, one of the founders and the CEO of what's the company that runs CubesOS? Invisible Things Lab. Merrick's here, he'll speak later. So Xen has all these different verticals. You have the server, the data center, automotive, embedded space, and what I say the consumer space, but end user space is probably a better term for that. That's what's so amazing about Xen. But it's 2026. I'm going to go a little bit faster to slowly get back on track because I have way too many slides in here. Architecture matters, right? So I probably don't need to go into too deep of a description on this because most of the folks in this room have already used Xen for a while. As I mentioned, it has many verticals, but it's lean, it's secure, and it's reliable by design, right? As you probably know, the review process is vigorous for Xen, and we're really proud of that. Like, we don't want to lower the bar of quality for Xen. So that's what makes it, that's some of the magic, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? If you're trying to get new features in and the process takes a little bit of time, but that also means we have a really stable product, a really stable platform. And we have neutral governance under the Linux Foundation. So I'll go into detail on some of these. I want to talk briefly about Type 1 and Type 2 hypervisors. I stole these slides from a different presentation that I do. but Xen is a type 1 hypervisor, right? It runs directly on top of the hardware, whereas a type 2 hypervisor runs on top of another operating system. So it's really purpose-built from the ground up. I'd made a lot of metaphors about cities in another presentation, but if we look at a type 2 hypervisor, right, you might have something layered like an old world city versus a grid layout like you'd see in the United States. I think this is Manhattan, where it's a grid. And if you look at old world Europe somewhere, like you're going to have these really small streets and buildings built on top of buildings, right? So a type 2 hypervisor, you're trying to plumb in some virtualization on top of the existing operating system, whereas a type 1 hypervisor, it's built for, by design, it's built for that purpose. But then there's something blurry in between, right? There's what we call a hybrid type 1 hypervisor. And so like a mix of something old and medieval with something new and modern. And this is what I like to say when I talk about KVM, which is the other amazing open source technology around virtualization, is KVM. KVM runs as kernel modules in the Linux kernel. So if you sit with your firmware, the hardware and the firmware running there, then you're going to have the Linux kernel and the KVM kernel modules, and then Kemu or something else on top of that to start virtual machines, and virtual machines that are started. Whereas you look at a true type 1 hypervisor like Xen on the left-hand side of the screen, Xen sitting right on top of the firmware and the hardware. You have DOM0, that control domain, which is optional, and then you run user domains on top of that, so the virtual machines. So this is kind of description to show the difference in a true type 1 and a hybrid type 1. Because KVM runs in the kernel space, it's still a type 1 hypervisor, but you're getting the Linux kernel with it. So if I try to draw this to scale, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, it looks more like this, right? You have the Linux kernel and the KVM modules, and then the other layers to get up the control domain, and then virtual machines. Whereas if you look at Xen, so to scale, I'm exaggerating obviously here, but the point is, if you look at specialized domains, Xen was built for purpose. So if you're looking at the server and the cloud, you're going to get every CPU cycle towards your system, right? So obviously it's being used for the hypervisor as well, but it's doing work for the system. Whereas in the Linux kernel, you can strip down what kernel modules get loaded, but you're getting a lot of extra stuff from the Linux kernel if you look at KVM that comes along with it. Really important if we talk about the automotive and the embedded space, where we need safety certifications, we need to be able to do audits on the code, right? So if you have the whole Linux kernel that needs to be audited and safety certified, it's going to be a long time before we get there. Whereas if we look at the Xen hypervisor, we're nearly there. I think we'll be talking more about this later today, but Xen will be safety certified much sooner than the Linux kernel. So it's really perfect for embedded and automotive space because of that reason. So Xen in the data center, we're still the best, right? We get Xen's a mature project. So it started, the first commit was in 2002. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Early 2000s, 20 years roughly. So maybe it was 2005. And maybe some of the bad press we get is people think it's a legacy project, but that's the wrong word, right? We're a mature project, which is what makes Xen, which is one of Xen's powerful points. So if we look at a full open source solution, you can run XCP-ng along with Xen Orchestra, but there's also commercial options built on top of Xen. So you have the Vates virtual machine stack. I forgot what the M stands for exactly. What's the M is virtual machines management stack. Thank you. Make sure I get that right. And then Xen Server, part of Citrix in the cloud software group. 2002. 2002, thank you. Perfect. So 25 years, right? There's an echo somewhere. That's okay. It's okay. No worries. It'll be fixed shortly. It's not my fault. Not me that made the echo. It's perfect. So 25 years, which was what makes it a mature project, makes it so stable. And this, if we look at those commercial options that come with commercial support, right? This could be a drop-in replacement for your favorite virtualization stack, such as your previously common virtualization stack. I'm not going to name any names, but it might have started with VM and ended in where. But now we have drop-in replacements for that built on top of open source, which is really amazing. But not only for enterprises, also for organizations, university system. There's really some great possibilities. And even in your home lab or in the server center, if you have an on-site server data center, Xen, XCP-ng, Xen server, and the Vates virtualization, virtual management stack all fit into there. Xen, of course, runs on ARM, XCP-ng support. Last time I checked, it was coming soon. So we're really close, I believe, to having ARM on XCP-ng. So Xen is ready, but there's some pieces in the distribution. I think they were outside of the control of the team to get ARM fully supported, but that's happening very soon. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. So ARM is along with RISC-V, which is also coming to Xen. This is really the future of virtualization, right? If we think about how many cores you could fit on a rack inside a server, a data center, how many cores you could have per kilowatt of heat, right? And power and cost. The core density you can get with ARM is pretty incredible. If you look at processors like from Ampere, where they have 256 or 512 cores on a single processor, some really amazing things happening in that space. So the future of the data center and the cloud is bright, and it's actually really exciting right now. It's an exciting time. We, as a consumer, you might not see those pieces, but there's really some exciting things happening. All right, I'm going to go slightly faster. Virtualization in container world. I'm going to probably skip over this one a little bit, but you might say, like, isn't that what containers are for if we talk about isolation? Well, yes, kind of, but containers are really isolating it at the process level. At the end of the day, you have a kernel that's running and delegating to processes, and containers use kernel features to isolate, whereas with virtual machines, we can really have isolation closer to the hardware level, so at the hypervisor level. And there's interesting projects like Idera that are wrapping containers with virtual machines. So going a little bit faster, automotive and embedded. The old way was to have multiple electronic control units inside a car that are going to communicate through various protocols. There's a lot of cost and complexity when you have multiple systems working together. So the new way is going to be a multi-core system on a chip. Renesas is already working on this. I got to see these boards when I was at the Open Source Summit, Japan, in December. A system on a chip with lots of cores in it, and Xen's going to isolate that workload. So this is really important if we talk about mixed criticality workloads, because you're going to have mission critical things running alongside non-critical things. So thinking about the instrument cluster running on the same board as the infotainment system, right? If your Android infotainment system crashes, you want the speedometer to work. So that's what Xen can give if we talk about a mixed criticality workload, all running on the same board. And at the end of the day, that's going to reduce the complexity. It's going to make those systems more maintainable. Not only there's a cost advantage to building that, but you talk about the maintainability and the reliability, you're removing a bunch of complexity by having a powerful system on a chip and using Xen to create and isolate tasks. So DOM0 allows for pre-configuring the VMs. I already mentioned that a little bit. At the end of the day, we're practicing the KISS principle. Keep it simple, simpler, cheaper, and more reliable. So if we talk about automotive grade Linux, they are fully invested in what we call software-defined vehicles. That's the future of the automotive industry. Software-defined vehicles, mumbling slightly. So we're going to consolidate those compute platforms, and we're going to be able to do all kinds of interesting things. We talk about over-the-air updates, telematics, the infotainment system, all running on the same system on a chip. This is what they call SODEV, is the architecture from the AGL, automotive grade Linux. If we look at the top of this diagram, you have your automotive SoC virtual environment. So virtual environment, if you're building those and testing them, and an automotive system on a chip from Renesas, for example, then the Type 1 hypervisor running on top of it, so the Xen project, and then we can have virtual machines that could be running AGL, Zephyr for a real-time operating system. We can also actually might have a small control domain DOM0 running Zephyr. That's a pretty common practice because even in a car, you might have dynamic virtual machines. When you turn on the car and the instrument cluster lights up to run a test, that could be a short-lived virtual machine. So you might still need that DOM0, that control plane. Go a little bit quicker here. Again, just showing that again, really driving that point home, a system on a chip running multiple systems, some that are safety critical and some that aren't. And you talk about doing over-the-air updates, which is required, right? There's laws about this that are either already in place or happening very soon. But you have to be able to update the systems inside a car because we've heard of cases where cars were hacked and they're worried that people could hack in and control the braking system remotely, right? Because the cars are connected nowadays. So you have to be able to update things and release security patches. And Xen can facilitate that, right? If you could just update a VM that's running a system, that's much easier than trying to run patches and have update systems when there's multiple systems that are using different technologies. Why not just update the whole virtual machine? So Xen facilitates the things that are coming in the future of cars. Okay. Technically, I think I'm supposed to be done in 3 to 5 minutes, but I'm going to go slightly over. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit so I can talk about the announcements. DOM0 versus DOM0 less. I put some illustrations in there about that too. In the end of the day, I think in a car, you probably will have a DOM0, but it's not required. So I'm going to skip over that a little bit. Skip this one because I have more on safety later. These are the members of the Xen projects. Big thank you to them. They keep Xen alive and healthy. Our governments, you have the committers and the maintainers, which own is probably the wrong word, but manage the code and manage the technical side of things. Then you have the advisory board, which is funded by our members. Those are our members. Really proud of this graphic. Pretty incredible. It's been an incredible couple years for Xen to see the interest growing, not only in the server and the cloud, but also in the embedded and automotive space. Some big logos on here, really proud of. And really pleased to announce the first time publicly today, announcing we have a new member. It is Boeing. Yeah, big round of applause for that. Airbus, if you're watching, contact me. Really excited to welcome Boeing into the project. That just shows the future is really bright, right? We have big organizations invested in this vision, so the vision works, right? That's really what I wanted to say with that. And why membership matters. You're funding the future, right? You're funding the future of the Xen project. You're ensuring the project will be healthy, or ensuring that it'll always be secure, that there's that we can get together and talk about things and advance the community here. You're also investing in safety. So if your domain is safety critical systems, by being a member, you're investing in that future, the functional safety certification that our members are working towards, and maintaining the artifacts that they'll use. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. You're influencing the strategy of the Xen project, making sure it's a sustainable project, and you get visibility and leadership when you become a member. We'll put the logo up here. I'll talk about what your company does to support the Xen project. So there's 2 different ways to create code, right? You can do it yourself, closed source, private, or you can use the entire community, the entire world to create something better, but nothing's free, right? So we have to have those members. So big thank you to our members. If anyone's watching this and was thinking about being a member, reach out to me or any of the maintainers, and we're happy to talk about why membership is important. And that'll help lead to faster adoption. The more people that use Xen, the better it is, right? Because it'll be even stronger, even more solid, even more reliable. And your magic isn't Xen, it's what you build on top of Xen. So, but you have to have a good foundation to build what's on top. So we need those members. More announcements. This is what I'm really here to talk about today. Xen safety. So I put a big asterisk on here. Coming soon, we're going to formally establish a safety committee. And that's going to give access to shared artifacts leading to the ISO 26262 safety certification. And that's going to accelerate downstream certification. So I want to just talk briefly about this. As the Xen project, we're not going to safety certify Xen, but we're going to provide the artifacts and the kind of accelerate the adoption. Come on in, welcome. Of that safety certification. So probably what's going to happen, if we look at the embedded space, the automotive space, we're going to have silicon manufacturers that are building system on a chip. So they're going to build boards that'll be embedded inside of cars, and they're going to have a board support package. So the software that supports the hardware on those systems on a chip, those are probably the companies that are going to safety certify Xen, because they're going to safety certify it with their hardware, their board support package. So the Xen project wants to facilitate that work. So the safety committee will share safety artifacts that will kind of, launch that safety certification for oncoming members. I imagine Kurokawa-san will talk more about this later in the day. You should check out his demo. There's going to be he's going to have a great demo in the hallway. Talk to him a little bit more about this as well. So the Xen project will not safety certify Xen, but the Xen project will facilitate that members can safety certify themselves. And what we'll do is we'll create a new Premier Plus membership level that'll allow members to have access to those safety artifacts. So this is really modeled after what Zephyr does, which is kind of a proven model. And I put this all in asterisks because we're pending a board approval for this, but I'm confident that this will be the case. So there are asterisks on this slide. Next piece, if you've been coming to the community calls, we announced long-term support for Xen, but we don't want to call it LTS. That's why I put quotes on this slide, because LTS implies that some releases are supported longer than others, but Xen will continue to support all releases for 3 years of feature support, and we're adding 2 more years of security support, giving 5 years total of security support. So that really aligns Xen with the other foundational open source projects. And like I said, it's not LTS because it's every release. Every release is long-term supported. So really excited about that. Xen Summit. I put September in here. I was supposed to say October. I didn't have time to update this slide with the last few pieces I was putting together. Don't take a picture of the date because that is the wrong date. But it will be in Munich just before Oktoberfest. So we have avoided Oktoberfest. And more details will come soon on this. The board has approved this, so I haven't had time to make a public announcement, but it's coming soon. Kurokawa-san and I will work on this together. Renaissance has found us a venue in Munich this summer, or this fall, I should say. Okay, I'm 5 minutes over. I'll go a little bit faster here. Xen is really about you all that are here today. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a part of the community. Xen's not just about code, right? It's the people that make it work. I like to think that I'm the grease in the machine that keeps the machine moving, but you all are the power behind the machine. So our strength is really in the collaboration. See, I have notifications on there. Should put that on Do Not Disturb. And as always, if you're reviewing code and helping, a little bit of friendliness goes a long way. We have a really amazing, friendly, and warm group, but I always like to remind people, always put on your best, and be polite to everybody to help keep the community as amazing as it is. The governance, I'm going to probably skip this one a little bit, but I like to think of it as a triangle between the Linux Foundation, the advisory board, and the developers and maintainers, 3 parts of a stool that hold up Xen. 2025 was a big year. We had a 4.20 and 4.21 were released. Got to refresh the homepage a little bit. There's a lot more coming to the website soon. My next priority is to really double down on the use cases for Xen. 2025, we welcomed Honda, Renesas, Ford, a big year for Xen. We had some new artwork, new pandas, and lots of open source events. 2026, well, it's only April, but I announced the long-term support for all releases of Xen, welcoming Boeing, the safety membership, And we were at FOSDEM this year, and there's lots more events coming soon. 421, that's an old slide. I'm going to skip that, go a little bit faster. 421 was released in November and really stable, doubled down on some stabilization features for Xen. Contributors, this is where the magic happens. So let's get to the graphics. Xen 4.20, we have our top authors of commits. Roger's here today. Yan couldn't make it today, but Roger's here, Alexi's here. A lot of the folks on this list are here today, so thank you to all the authors of commits that made 4.20 happen. Here it is by employee. SUSE, the Cloud Software Group is Citrix, and Vates up here at number 3. Pretty amazing. AMD's on here. Yeah, I'm really proud of the work on here. So reviews. Let's talk about reviews for a second. The feedback that I get for the Xen project is it takes a long time to get features committed. And that's true. We need more reviewers. So you have to do both, is what I'm trying to say. And we really need more reviewers, because if the feedback that we get is our changes aren't accepted fast enough, the only way we can accelerate that is everybody does more reviews. But that's not really the lecture I wanted to give today. I wanted to show who the top reviewers were by employer. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I am over time. 4.21, Andrew's here, number 1 committer. He's in the back. Thank you, Andrea. And Roger's here too, number 3 on here. Pretty cool. And by employer, I will share these slides on Sketch. You can check these out in detail. So same with reviews. Go faster. I'm almost done. What did 2025 look like for the budget? The final numbers came in. We had $115,000 of expenses, but $310,000 of revenue. So that put 2025 in the positive, $195,000 in the positive for Xen. Really proud of this. It's been a lot of work. You saw me frantically. Yeah, really proud of the work. It's thanks to everybody here. It's thanks to our members. And that we're doing our things ourselves, right? We could have hired an AV team, but you're patient with me. Let me set this up. All these little pieces add up to something big. So starting 2026, we carried forward 421,000. So really put us in a good place. And our membership's growing. So this is just the start, right? There's so much more to do with Xen. There's so many places to invest, but we needed the project to be self-sustaining and in a healthy place. I'm the community manager. I talked about that already. I'm now funded by the project. My work that I do is now funded from the treasury, from the Xen project. Vates bootstrapped me last year onto the project, and starting in January, it's the project that funds the work that I do for Xen. So this is a big change. It just shows that the small contributions can lead to big things, and that the project's stable, and we're really invested in the future, that Xen will be around for years and years to come. If we talk about developer relations, Neil's not here today. Neil McGovern is working on a modern documentation for Xen, along with Andrew's helping with Neil. It's going to be linked to versions. So if you look at the wiki's kind of the Wild West, and there's a lot of outdated information, a lot of great information, a lot of outdated information, a lot of information that was great but is no longer applicable. The new documentation system is going to be in source control, linked to versions of Xen. So it'll be up to date with the version of Xen that you're looking at. So I think this is a big difference for the new documentation system. I don't have a firm date on that yet, but do pay attention. If you want to be part of that, there's room to help. That would be great. So reach out if you'd like to help with some of that. We could use some more help on the documentation piece. Challenges. Still need to attract and onboard new contributors. So if you'd like to get involved, there's a place for you, whether it's contributing, reviewing. We need more reviewers. Infrastructure. There's lots of infrastructure that needs to be managed around testing and different pieces. If you'd like to get more involved, there's a place for you. So do reach out. The financial sustainability, we're really on good track for that. Have some goals for 2026 for the membership, and Xen is really in a healthy place. And we're trying to simplify some of the old processes. So I'm about 10 minutes over, so I'll stop here shortly, but the road ahead, more safety certification work, embedded automotive, the website and the docs. They're still not searched on the website. That's something we talked about a year ago. I did some experiments on that, and it will be, it's quite feasible. If somebody wants to help, reach out to me. Happy to get that implemented. And continue to focus on transparency in the community. So where will Xen go? Lots of places, right? It's just the start. So if we're being put into the automotive industry today, Boeing is joining, so aeronautics, we're there, right? So what's afterwards? It's in space, right? And humanoid robots is probably the future of Xen. So doubling down on the revolutions happening in the data center. We're talking about high core systems, maximum core count per kilowatt, space, not space in terms of outer space, but space in terms of, if you talk about high density core counts, if you take an old building in a center of an older city like Boston, for example, and somebody's building a data center in the basement, like they're restricted by physical space. That's where these really high core count servers become really interesting. So amazing things happening on the server side as well. And the future is bright. Talk about mixed criticality workloads. Well, humanoid robots, there's going to be a ton of that, right? And Xen is well positioned to be a major player in that. The same thing I talked about for automotive. But we need your help. So I highlighted reviews on here. Like I said, I get a lot of feedback that changes are slow to be accepted, but it's because we don't have enough reviewers. And it is a chicken or egg problem. You're going to say, well, I've never reviewed anything before. How do I get started? Maybe you don't feel confident enough to give reviews because you haven't done them before, but you have to start somewhere. And trust me, there's some great people that'll help you and mentor you along that voyage. So just reach out. And that's the more people we get reviewing, the faster we'll be able to accept changes. Advocate for Xen in your company. So most of you are probably already using Xen, but if you're not, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to folks about why Xen is the right choice and give a fair comparison. And the great thing is that if you're building something and you're hesitating between Xen or maybe QNX, a commercial hypervisor, or KVM, because you really wanted to go in open source, we can put together a call and we can talk about the differences, right? And we'll be honest, right? Sometimes there's other solutions that are better for your use case. We can get the maintainers in there, some technical experts. So advocate for Xen in your company. That's where we need your help. Stay connected. And a little bit of friendliness goes a long ways is the main thing. Okay, 10 or 15 minutes over. I hope Olivia will have time for his presentation. Thanks, everybody. Have a great event and reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.